So what does that mean for you? This is actually what firemen use to actually help save people. Like, this is the real deal.
Okay.
So you should be able to see me in there. I'm the red, orange, and yellow guy.
Right.
We're looking for cold spots with this, literally. So I have it set up to white, hot, black, cold. So we're looking for the blue and black spots to either take shape or move on their own.
Okay.
I always, no matter how small my groups are, I always get at least one of the cameras out. I do have an IR camera, so that one's phenomenal too. But this one for you guys is super fun to watch later on. But again, this guy doesn't always capture something every single night. I probably get about, 7 to 10 pieces a year out of this where I'm like, that's solid evidence.
Okay.
So, but if we're not recording, we're not going to find it.
Sure.
So there's a blue dot bouncing around the screen. When you guys get your video back, that's helping to direct your eye on where the coldest spot might be. It's giving you the coldest spot in the frame at that moment.
Oh, okay.
So when I'm kind of doing a quick spot check on the video, for every 5 minutes of any kind of media, I only listen or watch for 1 minute. So I'm watching where that blue dot is, but I'm also paying attention to where all of the blue and black spots are. So if things start to take shape, change, move, take figure, shapes, that kind of thing. So might not always be on that blue dot, but at the same time, it is there to help you realize where the coldest spot might be. I've seen 20-degree differences in a spot that was not supposed to be 20-degree difference, but it was only behind that blue dot for a split second. So again, I've seen it before, and I know that the spaces we're going to pretty well. So it's a matter of I already know the baseline of pretty much most of these spaces. You're going to hold this right-handed with the camera on your left all night long.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to do a few starts and stops. I'm pretty good about letting you know where the cues are for starts and stops, only because as great as the hardware is, that software sucks. So if we record for too long, we will lose footage, and we don't want to do that.
Okay.
So I will tell you, we're going to be in some spaces tonight where it's going to be parked cars. And
Do you want me to stop it
around.
currently?
Nope, we want to keep it on. But with those like parked car areas, and it's nice and easy to hide that because it is a cell phone. So I might say like Andy's coming or act casual. So Andy's coming from Toy Story. Everybody lay down. I kind of like don't want to be filming people's cars directly or people directly.
Sure.
They get a little funny about that. So again, I'm always respectful to all the spaces we're going to go to. So the next thing we need, Tabitha, this one's all on you.
Okay.
I was an analyst in the military for a while, and I know a lot about kind of what you're talking about with IR and
Oh, well, the IR
I have a lot of
camera
experience watching.
It's crazy. Like I have a new
this is
upgrade
really cool.
coming tomorrow. Actually, I have a different IR light coming because right now I'm using 10, but when that new one comes, I'll have 24.
Okay.
So I'm going to be removing one that has 4
quite an
on it,
upgrade.
and it has 20.
Yeah.
But it's much smaller, so it is. I'm hoping it's going to be as powerful as they say it is. But it's a very interesting, like, I'll have to play with it. And my wife told me, I was like, we're going to have to turn all the lights off in the house. I'll be in the bathroom a while, testing things out between the two, because she knows how this goes.
Sure.
You know, when I get a new toy.
Yeah, you got to test it and play with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff I can, like, throw right into the tours. But, so, like, I have another device coming next month once it's fully paid off, because it is pretty pricey. But it works completely different. Like, it's actually using EMF fields to actually give us, like, anagrams, almost like a digital Ouija board.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to play with that on my own investigation first. Like, I'll probably come downtown to one of my favorite spots during the daytime and just sit with it for like an hour or two before the tour starts, before I can actually see how it's actually going to work.
Okay, so you say you don't mention energy. If you don't mind me asking, what was it specifically last time that gave you that feeling? Was there a specific instance or a specific thing, or was it really just like gut feeling of this isn't really doing it?
My ear popped to the point where it was painful.
Ooh, okay.
Interesting.
And that normally is not a thing for me. So I'm very in tune.
You kind of have to take that as a sign at some point where you go here all the time, you know the spot, so when something weird like that happens, you have to just be like, no, I'm
it
not
actually did a jolt to me. It popped that loud.
Oh, wow.
And we have it on film. Cause
that's really cool.
I had a full group that night, so it was all on film. And I kind of told them, I'm like, guys, I'm just not feeling this. I'm just going to move on, if you guys don't mind. Like, I was a little disoriented. You know, that kind of thing. And I normally don't put my feelings into things like that unless I'm being super affected to the point where, like, you can even see me kind of, I knew I was staggering a little bit. So it was kind of like guys, we got to move. And it wasn't from the heat or anything like that, no humidity. I mean, I live here. I know what it's like all the time. So,
sweet dogs.
Yeah. Lots of nice walkers down here. We're a little bit further from town, so we see a lot of animals up this way because there's a lot of neighborhood back in that way.
Gotcha.
So those people actually probably all live here.
Cool.
So this is just their part of town. Not many of the tours come up here because there's not anything for them to see. So again, that's why I like to start up here. It kind of gives us a little bit of private time as I'm going through the devices, and I don't feel interrupted or very.
There's not 3 other people doing the same thing on,
Exactly. So I designed it also to start up in weird spaces like this, but we're going to end in a more touristy area where we're going to run into some of those other groups. You're going to find that I just stay out of their way.
Sure.
Just because we stop and we linger because we're investigating. They're telling a story and moving on.
Okay.
So even when I have my groups of 10, they're all looking at me like, that's what a normal size group looks like? I'm like, yeah, that's 20 people following one guy. You know, so that's the way
Sounds
it goes.
awful.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't be able to have this intimate moment. It would have to be,
Yeah.
okay, here's my speech. And
Yeah.
because we don't have time for, each individual talk.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And with this, I need you to interact. I need to know what's going on. So, and with your camera, I don't always follow up with it because a lot of that, because the screen is so small, it's one of the few phones that can actually handle the hardware and software.
Okay.
So it's an S8 Active, so it's basically a construction phone, and I put an extra casing on the outside of it, so in case it gets dropped, it's perfectly fine. Which
Talking
it has
about
been.
research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Well, here's the other piece of that too. So my wife, she is tech support for Best Buy.
That's cool.
Before that, she was a mobile manager for Best Buy. So
Okay.
she knows, like,
Was she able to hook you up?
Yeah, of course. We
Nice.
actually had quite a few phones lying around that we tested it out with. It just wasn't sturdy enough, and of course we attached the battery pack to the back of that, which is keeping the camera itself charged, because that thing's only meant to last for an hour.
Okay.
So that battery pack on the back, like, it is meant to just charge the camera, not the phone.
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
I also have the software installed inside the phone, so that way it can splice all of your mini videos together to create one.
Okay.
So those are the only 2 apps in that phone.
Because that's
Ever.
all I can...
That's all I
Yeah,
need.
sure.
I don't need it to do anything else.
That's cool.
Your device. So, spirit boxes. We're going to be using 2 different types of spirit boxes tonight. The first one you're going to be listening to all night long.
Okay.
You're going to have an earbud in, so you're going to be the only one to hear it in real time. I will be writing down what you hear in real time. I do keep a little notepad with me, so that way I can keep track of everything. This guy, normally you guys watch TV shows, it's just white noise, right? You hear Zach Bagans going...
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's slowed down on purpose. I want the radio chatter to come through, so song lyrics, DJs, commercials. You're not trained to listen to for 2 hours.
Right.
Plus all the history I'm going to give, she's going to fall asleep. We're going to have to pick her up and take her somewhere. So the radio chatter, if you can make out anything that they're saying from a DJ or song lyric, I want to know what it is. If you heard buy a Kia today, I want to know that you heard buy a Kia today, because the word buy might actually mean something to our space.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's going to record the entire session for us, so that way tomorrow morning I'm going to go through this recording, and you can mess with the volume all you want. You're not going to mess up the recording. It's beautiful. I don't know how this thing actually works, but that's why we have it.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to spot check it and give you about 15 to 25 more markers, whether it's relevant or not. It's going to train both of you how I listen to it and odd phrasing that I look for. If it is relevant to our space or where we are, I will always tell you why and then give you the link to be able to verify the information. So if somebody's birthday shows up from a person in history that we're talking about, obviously I'm going to say, here's the birthday of that person, and then the link to be able to verify that info.
Okay.
So you're going to have to undo the twist tie because these are brand new, never used, and earwax is gross. You get to keep that.
Oh.
So your volume button is right here.
Okay.
So go ahead and get that set up while I pull out your next device. Actually, I'll explain the device I'll be using while you're doing that, because you're going to need to focus on the next one too.
The street's hot as hell.
Yeah, it's pulling the heat from the daytime.
It's like 110.
Yeah, actually, go ahead and stop that. That's a little too high. That's probably up to about 92, 94.
Okay, I'm seeing about 85.
About 85?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So the next spirit box we're going to be using, this is the one I'm going to keep on me. Yes, this is my phone. If we had a group of 10, I have a separate phone set up with just this app. So basically how this guy works, it works like an ovulus. Have you guys seen the ovulus on the TV shows where it gives the word in the middle of the screen and says the word?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so this guy has 36,000 terms and phrases in it.
Okay.
It's going to save all of the words into a list, which is part of the reason why I love using this guy. The last tour I did, we had 116 terms pop up.
That's cool.
So 80% of this is bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. It's the other 5 to 20%. Again, you're going to get the full list, but I'm going to put why it's relevant and then a link next to it.
Okay.
Some nights I could get 100 terms and only one thing is actually relevant, and it's even a vague relevance. The other nights I got 20 to 40 terms where I'm dropping links for you guys left and right. It's crazy. So this guy will stay running in my pocket all night long, and we already have a word that's relevant to the space that we're going to next. You're going to find that sometimes things bleed over a little bit. So the word blue is actually relevant. Of course, that'll all make sense once we get to that space. So I'm actually excited already. Yes, this is me excited. So I'm going to keep that running in my pocket. The last device that you're going to have, and then in some spaces, when we're not going to be recording because we're just going to be walking, this guy will be up to you. So that way you'll be able to pass something off to him so he can continue working as well.
Okay.
So normally you guys see these guys on television, right?
Yes.
So these little blinky light guys, kids' toys.
Yes, I figured.
We're going to be going something a little bit more defined and refined. So actually, I like that line. I think I'll use that going forward.
Defined and refined. There you go.
So this is an EMF meter as well, but it's called a mel meter because it has 3 different functions. That's one reason why I like to use it. It does not record anything, so of course I'll have to record anything that you see coming out of this as far as readings. Let me explain how this guy works. The top number is EMF readings. So anything above 2.5 is what I want to know what's going on.
Okay.
Now, reason for that is because the 2.5 is that the other device's second dot. That's the first sign of activity.
Okay.
So the natural EMF goes up to about 1.1 from the Earth. So I usually discount anything below that.
Okay.
So 2.5 and higher. In some spaces, I might say, let's escalate that. So that way I'm not writing down 2.5, 7.5, 2.5, 7.5. I'm just going to say 2.5, any higher. Oh, you got a 7.5? Cool. Let's get something higher than that now. Okay. So that way I'm only writing down maybe 5 to 8 numbers instead of 25 numbers.
Okay.
The bottom number is ambient temperature. Brycen finds something on his camera, you and I can debunk it or prove it with this little yellow probe right here at the top because it's ambient. It's measuring the air around it. He'll have to direct us on where to find it. We don't always need that, but I like to have it at the ready. Okay. The last thing that it has a REM pod. Yes. Okay. We're not going to be using this all the time because it can be very distracting for me as I'm giving you history. So I'll say, let's get that REM pod turned on or turned off, and I'll show you more about that at the next location. Okay. But that antenna has an EMF field around it now. I just turned it on. So if something gets close to it and breaks the EMF field, it's going to go off. I'm not touching it right now.
Right.
The closer I get, obviously, we're going to get different readings, and there's a bunch of different colors on there.
That's cool.
Okay. So I'm going to explain all of those things at our next location and keep this turned off for now. But right now, I just need you to focus on these numbers. We're going to get a little bit of a reading over here, just because we have electrical wiring right there. It's going to go based off of cell phones, buildings, parking meters, that kind of shit. So I'll kind of debunk things ahead of time because obviously I know the spaces. So always give me, whatever readings you're seeing above 2.5. Okay. So now that we're all loaded up, in the event that I feel like I need to bring something else out, I may show you some of the extra equipment, at the end of this, just because it seems like you already know about like the infrared cameras.
A little bit.
So the new one that I have is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'll actually whip it out real quick just so you can see it. I'm actually pretty proud of how me and my wife pieced it together.
Yeah. I mean, this is already pretty fancy. You're saying it's like a special phone because they can only handle it. And
yeah, I don't
this
know
is
what
already
I
pretty
expected,
cool.
but this wasn't it.
Yeah,
this is cool.
Most people get here and they're like, holy shit. And what's funny is most people don't actually expect all the data back the next day.
Yeah.
So basically, this is a GoPro that's been altered.
Fuck yeah.
So the GoPro, if you turn on, there's 4 lights there.
Okay.
Plus 2 more on the side, and then 4 more at the top. So I have 8 IR lights shining through there, so everything
cool.
should be purple.
Yeah.
This guy's getting replaced because these little switches get knocked all the time by the person holding it because sometimes I have them pointed down based on where we are, and then the night vision comes on and it just draws attention from the other tourists.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I like to work with the lights that we can't normally see because that way I know for sure they can't see it.
Right.
So this guy's going to get replaced with this little tiny brick that's going to sit way down here like this.
That's the one you're waiting on, right?
Yep, comes in tomorrow.
Very cool.
And it actually has 20. So I'll be using 26 technically, not 24.
Okay.
I thought about taking this little guy off. But yeah, the 4 that are on there right now, just so you know, like they're pretty powerful all on their own because it's lined up with the lens.
This is really impressive. The whole thing is really impressive.
Well, we also attached a battery pack to it for stability because it was pretty loose before and the cameras are really hard to watch. So if we add it, we zip tied this guy on here and it's keeping the camera charged. The other one that I had previous to this, the camera wouldn't stay charged and I actually had to drill a hole in the casing. But we attached the battery because of the stability, and I had to always change the battery halfway through the tour. So it's kind of a nuance. Like I was like, this is bullshit. I don't like doing this.
Yeah.
Not to mention that camera sucked. So the camera, you had to keep starting it and restopping it every 2 minutes to be able to get any kind of footage. Like it was horrible. But this guy is
sounds like a frustrating way to keep everybody active.
Yeah. It was keeping me active because I had to keep helping people like reset the camera. It would freeze up and lock up. But I had trouble with the first one that I got of this. This is actually a replacement. The first one actually would not take a charge.
That's frustrating.
Oh, I was so mad because the company that makes it, like, they took a week to get it back to me, so I had to go back to the old one for a week. Like, it was pretty bad. I got in a little argument with them over the phone. I'm like, guys, I'm trying to run a business here. I'm not just some hobbyist.
That's always fun. And they're just like, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, like,
you'll get it when you get it.
Troubleshoot. I'm like, I told you I wouldn't take a charge. Like, just replace the thing.
Did you plug it in?
Yeah, pretty much. They sent me an email that said, what did it say? Pull the battery out and push it back in again.
Like, oh, great.
Like, no. So I called them. Of course, they don't answer. If you want me to know all that.
Yeah.
No, this is... 2022, we all know to take the battery out, put it back in, and unplug and replug. Like,
Well,
that doesn't work.
They custom make their own stuff. Like that spirit box you're using, that's one of theirs.
Yeah.
And I actually use 2 of them on when I have a group of 10. It's the only item that's duplicated because it's so much fun. It is the hardest thing we have out here, but everybody wants to use a spirit box. And I actually have 6 total spirit boxes, 5 different models.
Is
Yeah.
that this?
No, that's the red
That.
one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
see,
ones-
this drew my eye.
Oh, yeah?
It just seems loud and fancy, you know? It
this-
seems like
I'm
one of those
supposed
things
to be
that's going to be
listening.
randomly come around and saying, and you're like, oh shit, like what was that?
So,
This to me is the most, I mean, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but that seems the most definitive, like, oh shit, something is here.
so that usually goes to my skeptic. So if I kind of get a gist that somebody doesn't want to be in the group, they get that because that means they have to interact with 3 other people because everybody's following them. Because
Sure.
the EMF is obviously where the hotspot is, where we're probably going to get more activity out of a spirit box. If there's something going on with the camera, they have to interact with the camera person, and not to mention the REM pod.
Okay.
So the motion sensors. So again, it kind of forces them to be involved.
Okay.
So again, what it is. And I've been doing this long enough. I've been doing the tours for like 3 years where I can kind of get a gist on people, like who's
Sure.
going to get what device.
Okay.
Normally the cameras go to guys, just because they
Sure.
love the technology. Even if they don't want to be here, they're like, "Oh shit, this is kind of cool," that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and if I have a little one, they either get that blinky light, depending on how, like if they're super shy and quiet, they
Sure.
get that one. First off, it keeps them occupied from all the history.
They just have to, like, look
Right.
around.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
cool. It's cool stuff.
They are fascinated by it. It's a phone, so they love the technology.
Right.
But if it's somebody like a little kid that's like super active, and I think he's going to be dropping stuff, he gets the little blinky light P2
Yeah.
meter, because that can take some abuse. I think this is like my 5th or 6th one.
Yeah,
It's smart.
We
like-
have a 7-year-old, so we understand that.
He would
doesn't-
love the little blinky light.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
does not sit still.
No.
Yeah. So,
It would like kill him to sit still. Even laying on the couch, his legs are going like this.
well, I get the kids that are super stoked about this, but don't realize that I'm actually doing this based off of real history, not Ghostbusters the movie. So, and that's
Sure.
usually what their expectation is that Slimer's going to come out of this Big John's behind me, and it's going to
You're
be
gonna have
a
the
show.
vacuum on your back,
Yeah.
and yeah.
That's so funny.
We thought about getting me a backpack that actually looks like a proton pack, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going that cheesy.
Yeah. See, there's got to be a line where you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do have like I wear a lot of like flat topped hats, like a golfer's hat. It's just I don't know why I grabbed this one tonight, but I always have a pin on the side or on the brim, and I do have like the Ghostbuster symbol on the side of one of them. So I was like, that's too cool of a pin not to put on one of my damn hats for the tour. So
Yeah.
I had like a stack of them, but I was like, let me wear a baseball cap tonight. Anyway, let's talk about why we started here.
Okay.
So Big John's, of course, the place is haunted. That's why we start here.
Okay.
So Big John's, this place was actually named after a football player. His name was Big John Kennedy. Can't imagine why they named it Big John's, right? So he played for the 1947 New York Giants. Whenever I'm giving you the history of a building, I always do my best to slow down on specific keywords because of your spirit box.
So they'll
Spirit
pick it
boxes. Right. So again, with this location, it's going to be 47 New York Giants. Anything relatable to football or a tavern, so to speak. Those are people's apartments. We do not want to film
Oh,
up there.
okay.
Yeah, people live above a lot of these buildings.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
So the first floor is what we're looking at.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, here's what goes on in this place. The place is haunted because Big John used to sit in the back of the bar and tell the bartender if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink or not. But one night 2 guys come in, they're not old enough to drink. So he has the bartender throw them out. So they leave pretty pissed off. They come back the next night and try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on. He slams down his beer. He goes over and just starts beating the hell out of them. They're just pounding him right into the floor. But a couple of gunshots go off. John gets grazed in the neck, and the bullet lands behind him in the wall. John gets up after being shot, goes back to the bartender and tells him to get him another beer, get the 2 guys on the floor and ambulance. So, whenever I tell you there's a haunted building, everybody thinks of a tragic death or a serial killer or some kind of crazy BS, right? What's haunting this place is the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. I still haven't refound
cool.
it after this new renovation of Big John's, because this one just opened up about a year ago now. It was another bar before this. But people that sit in the front of this bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, or headache. Kind of like what I was telling you about when I was getting a little disoriented before. We start here on purpose because this is kind of your heated warning. If you guys feel any of those symptoms, I need to know immediately. Obviously, the 2 of you are, related in some way, whether it's marriage. I don't know. I didn't ask, but okay,
We're married.
just asking. But I never know. You can't assume. And
Yeah.
you
Sure.
realize why at the end of this tour why I don't assume anything.
Right.
So very interesting story that I tell at the very end. But if you feel any of those things, please let me know so we can get you guys to safety. I usually say move the whole group, but it does and it can happen. So fingers crossed we're going to be dealing with paranormal activity tonight. I've yet to have a tour that did not have something come through.
Cool.
But I never know if it's actually going to be legit or not, or how it's going to affect you, which is why I always give this heated warning at the beginning of every single tour. So, since you guys have never been here before, you're going to hear a lot about the Great Earthquake of 1886.
Okay.
This is South Carolina. We're not supposed to have earthquakes. We're supposed to have hurricanes.
Right.
So, this building behind me is where the first death occurred from that earthquake. Song lyrics, the DJs, commercials. If you can make out anything, let me know what you hear.
Okay.
It's just the three of us. You can interrupt.
Okay, I was like, I can't necessarily make out words, but I've noticed some, like, now I forgot what song just played, but anyway. Okay.
But yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay.
You're going to get better at this as the night goes on. I promise.
Okay.
I look at the notes, and I'm always like, wow, they got really good at this, because it's like really skinny at the top when I'm writing all the notes, and then the last location is like 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
So, but this earthquake, apparently, the white mantle you see in the middle also goes around the front. So they say a piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head and killed him, and then you could see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street in the middle of the night. Now, I say apparently a lot with that story because I don't have any proof. It's just a great segue so nobody ever thinks about getting sick on the tour, even though I bring it up again. So it's the whole reason why I tell that story, because it's like, I don't have any proof. I'm not here to make shit up. That's the whole point. So let's go ghost hunting. We're going to have you stop looking like a YouTuber. So I'll let you know when those cues are. So let's head up this way.
Like an influencer over here.
You should see the people with the camera I just showed you. They're like,
Got it on like those selfie sticks.
yeah, pretty much.
Good choice.
Will do.
So you'll see that whenever we're going to spaces like this, I always stay as far away from cars as I possibly can, especially when I have groups of 10. So just kind of keep in mind, I'm always set up for a group of 10, so that's why I bring everything, because somebody could call me last minute. So welcome to the Big Red Barn Lot. This is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides. This is just one of, I think, 3 buildings where we have horses in it. But this building here in particular only has a 1 line of history, and it's just so I can tell 10 people how to use their devices now that they're in their hands. So the history here is that this is the same red barn that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston.
That's cool.
So that's all I got, 1860s to 1920s. It just gives me a point of reference to explain all the different devices. We're going to start with spirit boxes, because I'm running one too, which we haven't looked at in a while, have we? You're going to find on nights like this where it's just 3 people, I get like, oh shit, I got something too. We have a number, so when I look at this word list, I obviously have to look in the number 6. We just talked about a gunshot over at Big John's with a weapon. So again, first clues. So I'm always looking for secondary clues. Let me explain. So spirit boxes, everybody wants to ask the same thing when they get a communication device, kind of like a Ouija board. What's the first question you ask on a Ouija board?
Are you there?
Is somebody here?
Yeah. Sure,
yeah.
Exactly. So if somebody answers no, that means somebody's here, right?
Right.
So they lied to you. So we're not going to be asking yes and no questions all night long. So even for my skeptics, like, this is great for them, because I tell them, even if you're here just for shits and giggles, we're going after details. We're going after the proof. It's not going to be a yes or no answer. In a space like this, I would normally have you ask, and we're not going to go into great detail because I want to move this on quickly, is if somebody's here, tell me what color the Big Red Barn is. So normally you're going to be listening for the color red, and I would be looking for the color red. However, song lyrics and DJs, the word red might not be available to them to be able to answer us right away. But fire truck, blood, heart are specifically red. I would take that as an acceptable answer. Is somebody's here, tell me what color the Big Red Barn is, and I hear blood, I'm good with that. However, most of the night I'm going to say, that's a good start, but let's wait for a verification. Another example. Let's say I have the word art on my word list. It doesn't mean anything to this space by itself, because you're automatically thinking of a painting, right? But you hear the number 40. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. You see where I'm going to be putting these clues together?
Okay.
I'm always looking for a secondary verifier. A lot of these people tonight are going to have the same damn names because they come from the same era. Lots of Charleses and Georges and that kind of thing. We need to know who the hell it is,
Yeah.
right? So again, I'll say like the word weapon, super cool that we were just talking about a gunshot wound, but I want the word gun. I also want the word John. I want the word cadet. I want something that's in line with the word weapon to be able to verify, like, those are the messages that we're getting.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not here to make shit up. I think you have the better gist of, like, what you're listening for at this point. So have you seen any numbers move on that guy yet?
Not really, no.
Okay.
And then I just heard 16, and then Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun is a song that usually shows up at the very end of this, and it happens all the time.
Really?
We're going to be talking about 2 female pirates later.
Oh, yeah, I read that little snippet.
2 female pirates.
Did you guys happen to see, like, the video that I made that's, like, a commercial for this?
I read nothing about it.
I literally just clicked the what to expect and read the little snippets on it, and then that's it.
See, I didn't even read that. I saw,
right,
like,
you guys
tools.
looked through TripAdvisor.
Yep.
So the video, it doesn't allow me to put it up there, that's why. Because TripAdvisor, even though that's where 93% of my business comes from, it's like, damn it, you gotta let me advertise the right way that I'm doing it everywhere else.
Yeah.
So there's a video that I created that shows, like, we're gonna be talking about plantation owners, we're gonna be talking about pirates, like, it's a big doomy type video kind of thing, and it actually draws a lot of people in through social media, but most of my business actually comes through TripAdvisor. So, talk about your device real quick, and then we'll talk about yours at the next space. As far as the other one, you're going to try to do 2 things for us. You're going to try to keep one of us in view if you can. I know we're a small group tonight, but the reason for that is because our skin temperature is going to be the warmest thing out here. When you have the warmest thing out here, now point your camera at the wall for a second. It should turn all red.
Yeah.
Keep it there. My hand comes into view, the wall is going to turn blue.
I see that, yep.
So with my hand in view of that, basically we want that array of color. It's a lot easier to find cold spots when we have that array of color. We can see things moving easier.
Okay.
The other thing you're going to try to do, if possible, certain spaces it will be impossible to keep the sky out. The reason why is because a blue dot that I told you guys about earlier is going to
always be a
default
thing,
because there's no surface.
Okay.
So again, there's a lot to that technology. I'm just giving you the very skinny basics just so that you actually have something to work with and have some fun with it. But again, you have to imagine when I have 10 people, we're going to be here another 5 minutes as I'm explaining all of the other devices, not to mention the infrared, the lasers that go along with it, because I do use laser grids with that other crazy camera, so it's 2 people operating at the same time.
Cool.
There's a lot that goes into it. So, better gist, any questions so far?
No, I do think it's cool that you started...
A little bit, but not above 2.5.
Okay.
I think it's cool that you start the bar and then, like, I don't know, given that reference of, like, back in the day, you know, this was the really important horses that did this or that, like, it's cool. I'm excited to go through this and hear kind of how, I don't know, relate to where we are now and what it used to be. I think that's really interesting.
Certain spaces, too, like, I'll show you pictures of where we're standing and what it used to look like.
That's cool.
So,
That's really
again,
cool.
I have a tablet that I whip out with certain locations just because of the pictures of what these people look like, what the space looked like, so forth and so on.
Okay.
So I'll be doing that periodically throughout the night. And I only reveal certain things. So with your spirit box, I'm not going to reveal all answers to you, so that way you're not always going to know what's going on. I'm not always going to give you, like, what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we're doing right now at the Red Barn.
Yeah.
You're going to get the answers from your spirit box, and I'm going to withhold shit on purpose, just so that way you guys have a genuine experience, even when you're going through it.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next space and see what we got going on there.
Now, while we're walking, do you expect me to point it down, kind of like you mentioned, to be respectful of...
Not necessarily. I mean, there's nobody walking around. We're not, getting the dude's license plate right now. You know what I mean? We're just walking.
Okay.
And he doesn't, like, people just don't know what we're doing. Even though if I was a car thief, that would be my first tool, because I know how long every car's been sitting based on its heat signature.
Oh, smart, yeah. We'd have to do that for, like, engine blocks to see if they've been driving around.
Right. See, like, there's people walking, coming up towards us. We don't want to be looking like a YouTuber at this point. So you want to point your camera down.
Okay, sure.
Perfect. Especially older folks, like they have no idea. Alright, no, normally have you guys like trudge over here, but
We're parked right here, so that's fine.
Oh, where are you parked at?
Right here.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we didn't, we saw you had, like, parking around, but I hate looking around for parking, so I just
He was listed
found this
here.
one. And
Did you guys have to pay for this?
yeah, but it's whatever.
How much was it? Just out of
It's
curiosity?
like 15 for like I paid for like 3 hours though, so
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys can go get some coffee later. Or I'll send you to Carmelo's, get some desserts. Yeah. Go drop another $15 for a piece of cake. So it's wonderful though. So Carmelo's is like one of the few. I don't eat out, but like on my cold months, like I'll go down there for a chai latte.
pretty good.
Okay.
It's like the best of
Carmelo's, where's that?
We're going to pass it. So,
Okay.
Cool.
I'll show you
We
when we
might,
pass it
yeah.
by. And it's actually really close to our ending. And
Okay.
it'll be on your way back to your car. So, and by the way, we only go half a mile. Like, we
Okay.
don't go far.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
that's the other perk to this small group and short mileage. You know,
I wasn't going to ask, but I'm very happy.
Yeah, because, I mean, you guys are on vacation. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be stopping in spaces like this and spending 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Based on, you know, what we're going to capture out of these devices. So, again, I'm not going to be giving you questions like what George Washington's white horse is, so that way you're not expecting certain things.
Okay.
But this space, again, everybody's like, really, you're bringing us to a parking lot? But this space used to be something pretty important to our country and to South Carolina. So, first off, this is where the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion once stood. It actually sat in the front of this space, facing East Bay Street, and then Eliza's garden was lined up with Five Church Restaurant over there and came all the way across, which would be basically like where that private sign is on the right-hand side. And we're standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home.
That's cool.
So, kind of give you a layout. So, who the heck were these people? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses, because remember, Eliza's husband was named Charles. Let's see why I look for the secondary clues now. There's 3 different Charleses in one freaking space. I need to know
Oh,
which
I
one's
saw
coming from.
Charles.
Yeah.
That's got to be it.
Right, exactly. We need a secondary clue so we know which one. So, the son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. Like, that's a pretty big deal for us, right? But I hate politics more than you guys. I really do. Even though I follow it, I hate it like nobody's brother. So, we're going to talk about Eliza. She's way cooler anyway, and her history is really super interesting. So, Eliza married Charles at a young age according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from. So, if you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, it's not going to be like 12 or 14, right? It's not going to be super young. The only reason I bring this up is because her husband, Charles, was over double her age when they married. Big age gap back in colonial times, it's a big age gap now, just so you have that reference.
Okay.
So I will give you little tiny clues like that, but I'm not going to give you specific answers. She married him because her father over in England thought he was dying, and he wanted to see all of his kids one last time, so he's trying to bring them all home. Eliza didn't think he was dying right away, and she put her foot down. It's 1744. You don't marry to have a green card or for citizenship. You marry out of love at this point. We're not even a country yet, so, you know, take that for what it's worth.
That popped to 5.9 for a second, but then it just went away.
Yep, that's why they call it ghost hunting beer. So 5.9 is good. We're going to get much higher than that. So anything escalated at this point above 5.9.
December?
Yes. Where'd you get that from? Obviously your spirit box.
It just popped up on this.
So, yeah.
It's like, hey.
So both relevant. I'll reveal at the end.
Okay.
It's actually relevant in one of 2 ways. That's why I'm waiting for the secondary clue.
Okay.
So again, very, very specific, as you guys can see. So very cool. And who the hell's talking about December in the middle of June on the radio? Why
Sure.
would we get that coming through? That's the whole point why you're listening to that.
Yeah, that's a good
sleeping
point.
radio
Yeah.
station. So, where was I? Oh, she married Charles, right?
Just put her foot down.
And she got married, and she was right. Dad didn't die right away, so he starts sending her gifts over from England. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye, that makes our blue jeans blue. We had the word blue earlier on my spirit box.
Oh.
Things will bleed over into certain spaces. So with this location, we may still get things from Big John, and obviously we are getting clues to, you know, Eliza over there by Big John's. We're only 1 block away. These are the only 2 that are going to be linked, because after this, we walk like 3 blocks away. We won't get anything else from Eliza or Big John, but continue the story. So the seeds that she got, she had no idea what she's going to do with them. She doesn't know how to use them. Even though she loves to experiment, she's into botany. She has to learn from her slaves how to keep them cultivated. The slaves that we had here in South Carolina were Gullah slaves. What does that mean? They basically came straight from Africa, which means they're agriculturists. They know how to keep things rolling.
Interesting.
So once she learned from them, she moves it to a plantation just north of here in Mount Pleasant, calls her dad and says, the rice plantations are going to shit, we can make a killing with the indigo. So she has international contacts now, and we now have an international businesswoman during colonial times.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
It's going to get even more important once I reveal answers before we leave the space of how important that indigo was to actually getting our country started. So, a couple of things we can ask. And again, we're going to stick together. Normally I have 10 people spread out. Like, go use your devices on your own, but we're a nice small group. We're going to keep it intimate like you were. I like that word when it's this small. So, questions we can ask. You can obviously ask about the marriage, right? So I gave you that one already. You can, as far as the mansion, it's not here anymore. You can ask what happened to it. So kind of take that for granted. If we get an answer, obviously then we can ask what year to get the secondary verifier. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza back to back from Charles. And the creepy thing about that is his first wife Eliza dies in January of 1744, and he marries this Eliza in May of 1744. So first wife dies, and he marries another one 5 months later. Ironically, both Elizas have a maiden name that starts with the letter L.
Okay.
We can ask which one we're dealing with by asking the maiden name. The children, I told you there's at least one. His name was...
95?
No, I'm not right now. No.
Okay.
Damn close, though. Damn close. So close. It's like, I want things to happen, you know what I mean,
Sure.
all the time. And it's like, I'm not going to make stuff up and say,
If
95
you
is
could
close.
connect that dot if you wanted to, but
Right.
yeah.
And there's certain ones I'll say, like, this is a stretch, but this is where my thinking is going.
Okay. You
So-
mentioned that he was trying to get everyone back. You know, he was dying. He wanted to see everybody. Did he get everybody back? Was he able to see everybody before he passed?
Well, he didn't die right away, remember.
Okay.
So
he did get to see...
he probably got the rest of his children back home, but Eliza stayed put.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
Expire?
well, that could also mean death.
Sure.
So I will be writing that one down here in a second. But the children, there's more. We can ask how many kids, and we can ask what their names are. But that's it. There's a tragedy among those kids. We don't poke the bear. Like, just
Okay.
don't piss her off.
Okay.
I mean, normally when I have a large group, I say, don't ruin it for everybody else.
Sure.
All activity, even the little 5.9 that you got, because yes, for that space, that's very small. For another space, that would be huge. So again, every space has its own baseline. Where was it? Oh, Eliza's death. You can ask anything you want to about her death. So how old she was, when she died, what she died from, where she's buried, and what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. Notice none of these are yes or no questions.
So Eliza didn't get to see... Was it her husband? Her husband, right? Or was it her father?
Her father was
Okay.
the one that was dying over in England.
And she didn't go see him.
She did.
Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of a yes, no, but I mean, I'd like to know if she regretted making that decision.
I can't prove it.
No?
So anything that deals with feelings,
No?
I
Man.
usually stay away from. I'm
Okay.
looking for dates,
Okay.
names, specific things about them personally. Nothing about feelings.
Okay.
So a lot of people like to ask if she was happy in her marriage, that kind of thing. I mean, there's proof of that because she wrote constantly about her love.
But
for
whatever
Charles.
we gather is not really going to lean one way or the other.
Correct.
Sure, I understand.
But yeah, that's a good point. But again, you're here to learn. So that's the whole point of, like, I'm not going to be like, yeah, that's a great thing, when I'm like, yeah, I can't prove any of this shit.
Sure.
I just can't. So, your REM pod, let's talk about that now that you kind of have a slur of questions in your brain. Go ahead and pull up the antenna right here if you can. What do you have?
3.5, 3.1, and then with 3.5.
I still want to stick to anything above 5.9 at this point. Pull up your antenna. You're going to need two hands. You can slide that spirit box in your pocket if you need to.
Okay, cool.
Try not to hit any buttons. There you go. Perfect. All right. So basically, well, let's turn the device around all the way to the back so you can see the back. Nope.
Is there?
Yep. There's a little flap right there. You're going to lift it this way. I have you do all the work because it can be a little tricky. Find the little thumb hole. There you go. It's very loose. It will fall, just so you know. I need to just remove the damn thing because it's a pain in the ass. But there's two. Oh, somebody keeps leaving this. We're going to turn that off. The other button, go ahead and click it into the device. Perfect. Now flip it around slowly. Reason why is because this device is going to go off based off of your movements as well. But there's a way to reset it so that way we're not getting false positives. On the right hand side, it's a good thing you're holding it right-handed. There's 4 buttons along the spine. Find the bottom button.
Okay.
Keep your thumb there. Every time it goes off, click it.
Okay.
In and out, real fast. If it goes back to the same color, obviously it's not coming from your movement. I also like to use this device because basically there's an EMF field around this antenna that's not being measured here. So that way we don't have false positives going either way. But if you can also use this as kind of like a call and answer with the colors. So watch the colors for a second. They're all different. Blues, purples, reds, that kind of thing. You can ask for a specific color. In this space, obviously I ask for blue all the time because of the enigma. If I'm working with a child ghost in a space, I'll usually ask them to give me their favorite color. It kind of helps give me a gender at the same time, because depending on the space, it could be completely different of what the stories actually are. But if you obviously get the answer, you click it to reset it, so the way it goes back to green, and ask again. So that's always kind of like how I like to use this thing. We're not going to be using the REM pod, that's what this part is called with the antenna, very often, but we like to use it in spaces like this where we're not distracting anybody, there's a little bit of noise in the background, and we're not going to be near neighbors. So if I say go ahead and turn it off, you hit the white button first, because if you touch the antenna, it's obviously going to be like, oh my god, what the hell's going on?
The white one on the back?
Yep. So you hit the white button, then push the antenna back in, just because we don't want to snap it off. They're a pain in the ass to replace. I've had to do two of those. But yeah, they're kind of a pain. So what's going on with your spirit box now? What else are you hearing?
Nothing specific at the moment. It's just nothing that I can pick up.
You start asking about her feelings, and I get the word
6.9.
emotional.
Oh, I like that.
I do too, but it's really vague.
Sure. Okay, so... Okay, so how many kids did she have, and what were their names?
Eliza, you want to tell us the names of your children, or if any of you are here, go ahead and give us your name. You know how all of these boxes work? I will never, ever, ever use the terms of what these devices are actually called. I won't say the word device. I'll say boxes. I'll say boxes with lights. These people don't know what the hell this shit is.
Sure.
They're from the 1700s.
Yeah.
So again, I won't say use this device. You can get touch to it. You know, that kind of thing. I will never use it like what they do on TV.
9 and chickens.
Very specific. I don't know if 9 is relevant, but we're going to find out. They do my
We
research.
did just ask how many children she had, and if there were any children here...
There were not 9. I want to say 9 is part of somebody's
That would be
birthday.
wild, right?
Yeah, right? Chicken. We could also be getting things relatable to the slaves, which obviously I can't prove anything because there's no records.
Okay.
So let's move as close to... That's your vehicle up there on the left?
Yep.
Let's go up in that corner.
Okay.
You're not going to offend anybody up there.
So the last thing... I'm pretty sure I've been haunted all my life, so the last thing I want to see is actually something over by the vehicle.
You're up for sure.
Listen,
Twins don't stay the night in the house.
I've got some pretty good ghost stories.
Ooh, yeah. So,
6.2.
that's...
Baby cry.
I have seen
Emotional.
baby cry.
Wow.
Emotional.
See, wow, yeah. Homicide. Did we ask her how... No, you said we want to stay away from that. Huh.
Explain.
Okay, well, Eliza, you used those indigo seeds that you were really proud of that idea.
Eagles.
Was that...
7.
Was that profitable? Did you... Trying to keep emotion out of it, that's hard.
It's hard to not
Yeah.
ask yes or no questions, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's always a way to reword it. Always a way. So you're asking if her indigo is profitable?
Did she... I want to hear more about the indigo seeds. I'm just struggling how to word... I want to hear her talk about the indigo seeds. What happened with the indigo seeds?
Eliza, can you tell us which plantation or where the plantation was where all of the indigo seeds went to after you were done experimenting with it here?
I heard come from, and then it.
You guys are going off the cuff, which is good.
That's awesome.
Most people would just use the impromptu questions that I throw out there. You know, just...
Oh, no, I'm curious. This is
Yeah.
really cool. Okay, we talked about the plantation. Maybe we switch it up a bit. And, the plantation's not here. What happened with the plantation?
Where is the plantation? What city is that in?
Oh, this may be nothing, but when that beeped, it immediately, the cold spot shifted and then went away.
The fact that you just marked it vocally kind of helps me out.
You can go back and see that.
I normally don't listen to that one. Like, I
Mhm.
just watch, so that way I'm focused on the watching part. And not to mention, I will also give that to skeptics.
Sure.
And they say some nasty shit about me when I'm not looking. So I stop listening to it all the time.
8.8.
Oh, my. Okay, so we had the indigo seeds, we had her children.
Eliza, can you give us the color blue on that box by getting close to the metal stick over here? Just make it go to blue. You know how it works. Just gotta get closer to it.
Joe.
That seems like a really modern name. What did you learn from the slaves? You did.
It has to do with the chickens.
Was the language difficult? The language barrier? Clearly, you became successful from it.
This thing's been sitting on incentive.
Inventory?
Incentive for the indigo. You know, so we keep talking about the indigo. Let's talk about incentive.
Now I just switched to brick, which is funny because where we're going next is where I talk about the bricks.
Okay.
And that's still 3 blocks away. I'm not going to count that here.
You were talking about not using the crop that you were using and switching to indigo.
Eliza, show us your favorite color. I know I've heard your favorite color a lot, but show me on the box by getting close to the antenna. Do you know which color it's supposed to be?
You mentioned you don't say box. Have you ever tried to dumb it down more and say, like, you know, call it a stick? Because
I say the metal stick.
okay.
Eliza, what's your favorite color?
You have any questions you want to ask? Or are you just
I'm
kind
too
of?
focused on
Oh
this.
yeah.
Ask a
Okay,
question.
I get that.
You know, my deaf ass is like,
What did the chickens mean? Was that important? That seemed. I didn't get anything over here.
the right way?
What did you get out of the slaves the right way?
Ooh, okay, I like that. Yeah, because she did learn a lot from them. Okay, so we talked about the indigo seeds, talked about the children, we talked about the mansion.
Who else is here? Give us your name on one of these boxes, please. I know one of the children is usually here. There's no Joe.
Yeah, I'd have to look that one up. You were trying to convince me that Joe lived here with Elijah, and that just doesn't seem like a...
Well, Joe could be like Joseph.
Joseph is not
Oh,
there.
okay, yeah, no, fair enough.
Thank you.
Is it just you here?
Eliza, who else is here with you?
Wow, it is honed on the rod right now. Like, every time she moves it, it's like stuck to it.
The middle thing?
Yeah, it's like 74 degrees, which is about 5 to 10 degrees
It's also
colder.
a little breezy out here, so metal's going to pick up on
Okay,
an extreme temperature versus plastic all day long.
okay.
Brave?
Brave?
Is anyone buried here?
Let's not poke that bear.
No? Okay.
30? Tax? Safe?
Eliza, who else is here with you? We need some names. So I'm going to tell these folks all the answers to your story here in a moment. One last chance to give us a name.
People?
All right, Eliza, I'm going to close it down. One last
Gone
opportunity.
to waste.
Trash barrel in the back.
Should we move over there?
That's where I'm thinking. I think she's giving us direction. Let's take a walk real quick.
Vision?
I'm looking over there, Elijah. Liza.
City? 300. Price?
You're getting pretty good at that, aren't you?
I'm trying.
You're doing really well. I got the word soldier on my screen, and one of the children was a soldier.
Okay.
So I'm waiting for the name. I'm going to get one more word out of this, and we'll wrap this location up.
Okay.
8.
Any other EMF on your screen? Liza, told us to come back here. What's going on? Where's the soldier? Come on. Where's the soldier?
2. Focus. Bat. 3. Hour.
Hour or hour?
Hour. Like the hour. Time. 3.
Come on,
18.
Eliza. A lot of numbers.
I know. 7.5. 7.2.
Do you think she wants us to ask a question involving numbers?
I'm trying to piece them together, and I got nothing. Like, I'm looking at all of them, and none of them make any sense. You have to realize how much I read about these people.
Sure, yeah. So if nothing's making sense, then
I'm
yeah.
going to call it at
129.
7.5 is good. And even my spirit box is not doing much.
Okay.
So I'm going to let that continue to run. Let's get into the answers of this place. So go ahead and turn your REM pod off. That's the white button in the back first, then your antenna. Kill your video. Give your hands a break. Mind that there's usually somebody out here like handling all the garbage and that kind of thing.
Okay.
500.
This is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Little brick road. Yeah, let's talk shit behind his back. This is funny how, maybe not funny, just people can be so hateful.
Wow.
How's everybody doing tonight? So, this is actually one of the reasons why we use earbuds, because we're in a quiet space. So we're going to definitely keep your REM pod off in here. We don't want to make too much noise because I can tell somebody's in one of those rooms. But this is Lodge Alley. So when we crossed that last crosswalk, that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. So did you hear any names along the way? Like I was trying to catch on to like what you were saying, but I'm sorry I forgot to tell you to actually listen for names.
Oh,
She was hearing Harry Styles songs. Harry, I don't
Everybody
know.
hears Harry Styles
him.
songs.
Sure, yeah.
What's funny is I have no idea who that even is, but all the teenage girls tell me that they're
Yeah.
hearing Harry
I
Styles.
didn't until recently. And then I was like, oh, I guess I kind of like him. I'm usually not trendy. My family owns a bakery and I run it. And so we have a bunch of teenagers. And I'm like, I don't even know what you just said. Like, I'm going to need you to speak stupid to me.
Yeah. My 15-year-old is with us, like, sometimes she gets a little, like, too teenagery for me. Like, can you tone it down a little bit? Like, I'm working.
Speak English for just a second.
Right.
But this is where, when I say the Charlestown walls, Charleston used to be called Charlestown. And it was one of the 3 fortified cities. So it had walls wrapped around it. It was there for protection. So fortification is so that way they can keep everything inside the walls. I'm sorry, boss. I got nothing on me, man.
No. Oh, no.
But this street that we're actually on right now, people used to live here. This is one of the first streets we ever had. So I get the same names over and over and over again every 6 to 7 weeks. Those 2 names are Benjamin and John. They sound very common, But when I say people lived here, I'm not talking like there were dozens of little tiny houses down here, like 2 to 5 people at a time.
Okay.
So
2 to 5?
Did you just hear that?
Yeah. 2 to 5?
very interesting.
That's weird.
It is weird. Because again, that's the range of people that actually used to live down
I
here.
said,
was
you
2 to
guys said
5
it at the
people.
exact same time,
Yeah.
2 to 5. Did
Yeah.
you even hear him say it? You guys literally mimic each other
So
saying
what's
2
funny
to
is
5.
I also didn't tell you because we were chit-chatting when we were back at the Pinky Mansion site. I kind of played a little subliminal trick on you. I told you twice that I was not going to give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse. We didn't go over the answer to the pallbearer question. George Washington was the president that was the pallbearer at Eliza's funeral.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
cool.
I kind of moved this on pretty quickly, and I do that on purpose. And I normally ask my entire group of 10, I'm like, all right, who wants to take a stab at who the president was at her funeral in 1793? And if nobody gives me the right answer, that's a good thing. Why? Is because that means nobody is subject to subliminal messaging. So if I just said 2.5 and you told me 4 or 5 minutes from now, I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of a stretch.
Sure.
Unless that's why we record things.
Right.
But we did say it simultaneously.
Yeah.
So again, it's super weird that we said that at the same time. But again,
I mean, same numbers, 2 to 5. I mean, literally the exact
5.
same. That was wild.
So Benjamin and John both lived here in 1801. That's 2 people out of 5 that lived here. Every once in a while we'll get a third name. That name is Jane. Now Jane isn't a very common name these days, but that's the third person that lived here in 1801. Every 6 to 7 weeks their names will pop up. There were, I think, 4 or 5 different Johns that lived here in a different time span of like 60 years. So John likes to give us his last name, Johnson. So John
Lovely.
Johnson. Just to kind of prove like he's the one that's actually here. Now here's why I think this is actually happening. You're standing on Belgian blocks. So we got the word brick on my word list earlier, and I told you I wasn't going to count it yet. I want to see if it's going to pop up here again. But Belgian blocks are said to be made of granite. So granite does not hold an EMF charge at all.
Oh.
So
Interesting.
yeah, put your device on the ground. Any brick you
on
want.
it?
Yep, set it down. What'd you go up to? Is that an 8?
8.1.
Oh, shit, yeah.
7.9.
So here's the interesting thing. I've been testing this because this is my next podcast episode, and I'm studying these bricks. I want to know anything above an 8.1 at this point. I'm going to write down.
I mean, that is a consistent
Yeah,
7.
it's just holding there.
Yeah, it's super
Is it?
weird.
It's not going to pick up the phone up here, right? Like, because I mean, it's been next
So
to me the whole
ground,
time.
It should be picking anything up to like a 0.8 to a 1.1 average on any ground. So again, granite doesn't hold. It's not magnet, so it's not like magnetite, like a magnet where it actually hold a charge and like make that thing go absolutely bonkers. So the interesting thing is that granite is straight from the earth. You guys have heard the term limestone on paranormal shows, I'm sure. Limestone is said to stir up activity because it comes straight from the earth. So with that being said, I think we're dealing with the stone tape theory in this location. That basically means that the bricks here are hanging on to the consciousness of the memories of the things that
that's
occurred
so
here.
cool.
Because I can't find anything specific about 1801 or this Benjamin or John Johnson that like was super special about them. I feel like because I gauge it, it's every 6 to 7 weeks, and it's the same names over and over and over again. So take that for what it's worth. I think we're good with this. Like I have a pretty decent reading, so let's
That's
get this
cool.
device up off the ground. I also will tell you, and I linger here on purpose just for a few more minutes, just so we get anything up on the recordings. Now, this location, before people lived here, the Freemasons had a Masonic lodge here. So we will get things relative to the Freemasons.
It was like, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was also the space where I had that ear pop, just so you guys know.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, the Freemasons, they had a Masonic lodge here, hence the name Lodge Alley. So,
You think we disturb?
Ooh.
Yes.
Just got a little tingly.
Yeah.
That's
This is a
weird.
weird space. I do get the
Did anything
term...
happen here? I mean, I know you mentioned that
Nothing
people
I can
lived
find.
here, but
Yeah, nothing I can find.
that's weird that you got the ear pop and now this in different times. Weird.
It's fine as
Oh.
I feel fine. The word Illuminati will show up on that spirit box all the time in this location. A lot of times if I start bringing up the Freemasons, the word symbols will show up as well. So it just depends on what spirit box wants to, take any kind of a part of that loop. And again, Illuminati, first off, who the hell's talking about the Illuminati on the radio?
That's
Yeah.
old, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like 20 years ago that was a big rage. you know?
Right. Now, the other thing is why am I only hearing it in this space when I'm in the Masonic Lodge area? So, again, we are going to move on. However, we're going to go to another alley, but I can't take you all the way through it like what we're doing now. I've been kicked out. So I still tell the story because it stirs up a lot of shit.
Okay.
And we will get clues from that story through the rest of our time together because we're going to remain relatively close, so things bleed over in the area we're going to. So this is where my mind really has to think about what's that word mean and which story does it belong to. Because there might be stories, there's like 15 stories around that street corner. Some of them are myths, some of them are lore, most of them are true. So I have to think about which ones are myth, what are we getting, so forth and so on. But the alley, I'll also tell you how I got booted out of it.
Okay, I was just going to ask.
I tell it at the end because it makes more sense when you can see the space and why I got kicked out of it.
Okay.
But as we exit the alley, stop your video when we leave because we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood to get to that space.
Okay.
And we're not allowed to go through neighborhoods unless we're just cutting through. So I won't be doing any touristy type things as we're walking through.
Okay.
But definitely continue to listen. Your EMF detector, you can actually back pocket that for
20,000?
20 doesn't mean anything here that I can think of.
You want to go count the... Do you want me to hold that instead of her back pocket?
Yeah, either way.
Sure.
And, pocket it because it's irrelevant for a little while, just until we get to one of the next spaces. Again, you can't always use every single device in every space. Sure. So let's head up to the next spot.
Wild. I mean, just for some feedback, I'm not sure if you're into that, but I much prefer a more genuine experience and seeing nothing than hints of just bullshit.
Side to side.
This has been nice.
Yes.
Alright, so does that see...
Yeah, perfect. Nobody knows what the hell you're doing now. So this is Philadelphia Alley. I've been talking all night long. I'm going to take a drink.
Yeah, by all means.
Contented?
You guys are way good at this. So this used to be called Dueller's Alley. This is where the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston.
Cool.
We all talk about one specific duel because we can actually prove that it happened, and these were actual real people.
Mayday.
I've had Mayday show up here before. I just can't find where there's any kind of pilot. Like, I did look into it. I even looked into just the month of May, just to see if something specific to this particular
like a day
location.
in May.
Yeah, nothing. But we all tell the story. Of course, I tell it differently because you're ghost hunting. You need way more detail than the campfire ghost story that every other tour tells. So again, we're getting to those more popular areas. There's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. So there's your first prescription. Nice. So you're paying attention. Love it. So doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with all of this cash. The attorney thinks that the doctor is just after her money, so he tells her to get rid of the doctor. He moves to Charleston to prove that he's not. So he's going to come down here and start his practice. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. There was a gunman inside the inn that he was going to stay at. But somebody walking by with the name Ralph Isaacs. Now, I stop on Ralph because his initials show up all the time. But the doctor also has Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. R.I. will show up here constantly. We already got the I as we were passing by this street down there. So again, I just basically took you in a little tiny, like the letter P is basically how we got here. So I'm waiting for the letter R to show up somewhere, whether it's your spirit box or mine. But we also need the secondary clue, like prescriptions, so we know which person it belongs to. So right now, it's relative to the doctor. But if you hear, we're on the road again, we have the word road, and I have the letter I. So we have Rhode Island.
She heard friends. There's his name is Ladd. Brown Ladd. I mean, I don't know if that's...
Well, I'm looking at the two were friends.
Sure, okay.
So I haven't finished the story yet, so that way you guys can see where the word friends is definitely relevant. And then you have contended. So let's get into what actually occurred here. The doctor takes Ralph up on the offer of renting the room at 59 Church Street. These are friends of Ralph's. It's not Ralph's house, but he knows he's a local, so he knows where to send him. So the doctor takes him up on the offer. The two become friends. They go see plays together. But they can't sit next to each other because... Oh, I've skipped a part. I am so sorry. It's the whole part of the campfire story. The doctor's practice is taking off, after the longer he stays here. So he's making lots of money. He's proving his point to Amanda.
He's not just in it for the money.
Right.
Okay.
He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Now, every haunted city you go to is going to have a cliched whistling ghost. I actually have evidence of this one specifically. So, I'll tell you that after the end.
843.
That's our area code. I omit those.
Cool.
But nice catch. The play thing. So they're going to see plays together, but the doctor makes so much more money than Ralph that he gets better seats. That's just the way the hierarchy works. So they talk about the plays on the way home. They're arguing over the new actress that was in town. They went to go see William III, and no tour guide can tell you from which theater, because we had dozens at the time. So they start arguing. It gets a little heated because Ralph thought that the actress sucked, and the doctor thought she was great. But Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiance back home. So it gets really ugly, and they go their separate ways. Contended. So,
Interesting.
yes, friends contended. Makes perfect sense now, doesn't it? Ralph is from here. He has friends at the newspaper. He goes and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. So the doctor sees the ad and rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley and let's get this settled. So they come down and they take their 10 paces.
Over an actress?
Over an actor? Well,
actor?
He started insulting his fiancée.
Sure, yeah, but all this over a dispute. You know,
Right.
Wow, that's just so crazy.
Yeah, it's just the way shit went down.
Yeah.
But they
June 30th?
take their... No, but I'm going to write it down anyway. It's very specific. They take their 10 paces, and the doctor turns and points his gun in the air.
Ow.
And he shoots.
That's weird.
What'd you hear?
You're just
Ow.
talking about he shoots and she goes,
He's
ow.
like, ow.
That's she heard ow. Owl or owl?
Ow. Like he, like...
Oh, wow.
Like he got hurt. Ow.
Yeah.
yeah,
like
just
ow.
as you were talking about him getting shot.
Well, he didn't get shot. He shot his gun in the air.
Okay.
He did not shoot his friend. He was just there to show you had the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened during a duel. You
Okay.
shoot your gun in the air or into the ground. So, but Ralph has his one shot, and he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So the doctor drops. And his friends pick him up. They carry him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. He was a doctor. He probably tried to bleed it out himself.
Wow.
So, again, the whole point, we get the number 59 here because that's where the doctor stayed. So 59 Church Street was the address. We do get 59 and Church, so a lot of times it's a combination. Just depends on what's actually coming through. The campfire part of this is obviously as you walk through the alley, you're going to hear the whistles from the doctor. However, if you guys are going to try that when you're down here and you're going to walk through the alley using your voice recorders and you're going to listen to it later, keep in mind every damn local knows this story.
They're all whistling.
I do it every night.
Sure.
Just because I've been booted out. So we're going to actually end up at the next corner. My garage is right there above that little convenience store. So I have to pass by the alley. When my 15-year-old daughter's on the tour with us, we race to see who's going to throw the whistle first. So she doesn't realize that I can whistle and talk at the same time. So I catch her every single time. But yeah, it's a fun little game.
That's
with
cool.
us. So here's how I got booted out of here. By the way, this is one of the most picturesque places in
It's
all of Charleston.
beautiful.
Oh, I was going to say, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, after I'm done telling you how I got booted out of this, we're actually going to go down part ways because I want to show you something, and then we're going to dive right into this female pirate thing that we talked about earlier. So, the alley didn't come all the way through to Cumberland at one point in time. So the bricks on the other side are older. And this alley has a long, long history other than just duels. So it used to be where they kept all of the livestock, and it was kind of caged in.
Gosh, I really hope that pulls up something from the alley.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
But the bricks on the other side being older,
Clear.
they're sun-dried
Let's be
bricks.
clear.
They're sun-dried from slave children. So that means those kids had to turn those bricks every 15 to 20 minutes to bake them in the sun. There's a full handprint in one of them and fingerprint swipes at the other end.
That's really cool.
It is. However,
Sad, but really cool.
I used to show it off just because it's part of our history. Shows how far we've come in slavery, obviously. It's not around anymore. And obviously I get a lot of diversity in my groups.
Sure.
So again, I'm all about making sure the history is known. However, everybody wants to put a spirit box near it or an EMF detector. That brick is just like a grave. That kid is not hanging around that brick in the afterlife, nor is he staring at it. That was
I would imagine he's far away from that.
probably back home with mom somewhere. So, one night, November 26th of 2020, my entire group went to huddle around that one brick with the handprint and try to get a reading when I'm trying to scoot them along. It's right outside a gentleman's dining room window of his beautiful mansion. He comes out screaming, "I'm in the wrong because I'm in the wrong area. I'm not allowed to be in residential areas." I'm new at this,
Sure.
so we
Okay.
moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I worked in retail for over 20 years. I took a Thanksgiving off, so I didn't have a tour. But November 28th, Black Friday of that year, I got a phone call from the tourism office to either reroute my tour or go down halfway like everybody else, because that's where we're allowed to go, is down halfway. It's not fair for my groups of 10 to try to investigate a space around 20 to 60 other people, because in the summertime, it's packed. So I decided I'm going to reroute my tour, and I tell my team tickets were much cheaper. Back then, like we talked about earlier, I'm like, guys, we're going to wing it. I don't believe in this crazy virus story. Like, it's not my thing. I'm into vampires. Like, this is the way things go. Excuse us. So we're going to see what happens. Before we leave, I did not tell them what we are going to be discussing at all. Somebody hears the name Anne on a spirit box. I did not tell them we're going to be investigating Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what...
Bonny. I've heard that name before.
Right.
I'm not a big history person, but I've heard of Anne Bonny.
Yeah.
That's
and we're
cool.
going to get into her later. You're going to know a whole hell of a lot more because I've done
That's cool.
a shit ton of studying on her. But when we get there, somebody hears the number 300, like you did earlier. I have no idea what it means there. I go home and do the research the next morning. We were there on November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300-year anniversary.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Interesting.
I keep taking my teams back there now because it is a hit or miss location. We're either going to have a shit ton come through or nothing at all. Anne is said to be seen all over town because she's familiar with the town. But this, you're going to see why I go specifically there for her once we get into the space.
Okay.
So, again, it's very interesting. But at this point, there's no other tours down there. I'm going to point out something about the alley.
Go through.
Oh, we are.
Love. Here I am.
I just want to point out, I have the word friendly right around the same time you heard the word friends.
Oh,
Interesting.
no.
This gate right here actually has a lot of meaning. I want you to kind of remember the history I just told you, where the alley didn't go all the way through. This was a shortcut to get to the St. Philip Cemetery when there was a loser to the duel.
Oh, man.
I call this the Death Gate. So they would go over this courtyard, and the cemetery is just off to the left. So you're going to see it once we go talk to the Powder Magazine up there, but talk about Anne Bonny. But with the amount of things that we have going on, like, I want to skip straight to it instead of doing like our myths and legends to see if anything's going to occur, because you guys are really good at this. I don't want you to think I'm skipping out on you, but I think with the level of detail that comes out of some of these spaces and the questions you're asking, like, I'm super curious to see how you're going to do at the Powder Magazine. So we're going to skip the myths and legends and the typical ghost tour stop, because it's one of the stops is their big finale, and I let them have it anyway. I just still tell the story very quickly because it talks about an apparition and a photograph that was caught here. It is super cool, but with the level of what you guys are working at, like, it's unnecessary because you already know what an apparition is. You've seen stuff on TV. So again, it's a super cool story. If you want to look it up, the woman's name is Sue Howard Hardy.
98.
He died in 1786. So, yeah, no 98.
What about the friend? Not the doctor, but the...
Ralph? 18... Let's see. I want to say 1834 keeps ringing a bell in my
Okay.
head.
Not even close to 98.
Yeah, not even close.
Sure.
But yeah, we're going to go straight into Anne Bonny. In the event that nothing is popping up there, obviously I'll tell you the quick story of why every ghost tour stops at that cemetery. But again, Anne Bonny is a hit or miss. But I think with the level we're working at tonight, let's go see what we can find. Yeah, this is, if you guys are picture takers, this looks like this all the time. And it's always this quiet. So
Really?
obviously now that we're in the alley, listen to the part of the audio for the whistles. Remember, I don't listen to the audio. So again, I've caught whistles in the past that I can't debunk. It's going to be very faint in the background. That kind of thing. And it's always this quiet, day or night. Even though we're just 2 blocks away from East Bay Street, Saturday afternoon, it's this quiet. I don't know why.
That's nice.
Beautiful background.
March. Do you want me to turn this off in transit?
Yeah, you can kill it for a while. We had 4 or 5 cases before.
Stand up. My leg's going numb.
We were getting booted out of places because nobody would allow the psychic to actually come through. I'm actually going to take that and set it up with the REM pod.
Okay.
Just because the only readings we're going to get out of this guy are going to come from the REM pod, and it looks like you hit the hold button.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
it's
pressing
just a
buttons.
Quick reset. That's all. But you'll see like where I was working with Carl, and then how things started to evolve from there. So how I got into this was somebody listened to my entire podcast and wanted to turn me into one of those other.
This is the guy that hired you on.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so are we free to ask questions?
Absolutely. Do it.
Okay, so.
You guys know what you're doing by now.
I mean.
Right now.
There's so I mean, let's start with the beginning. You were 12.
That sounded like get out of here, but it was kind of like.
And we do have the word leave. And again, I will get some negativity out of this space every once in a while.
Sure. I mean, I'm gonna leave it to your discretion. You're the guy here.
With Anne, I usually get pretty firm. Anne, I want you to give us one out of her tonight. Anne, can you tell me the name of your first husband? Start there.
303.
And why did you leave? Why did you and your father leave Ireland away from your real mom? Oh no, I guess the mistress was the real mom. So why did you leave the other woman in Ireland? Were you afraid?
Nope, I know what you did. I'm waiting to see if the answer's going to come through.
Because to travel across the oceans, that's a big deal.
Rain? Is that what you heard?
Was it some kind of disease? I know very little about Ireland, but I do remember a potato famine.
Does this vape bother either one of you?
No, I don't care. I appreciate you asking, though. It was very considerate.
It was 6.1.
Caribbean?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Huh.
That's exciting. And we have a 6.1 that just showed up, which is...
Ooh. What did you do, Anne? What did you do your time in Cuba with your child?
This is not a space where we get a lot of EMF.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, getting up to a 6 is pretty badass. And I moved my
Time
phone.
is better spent in the rain.
So that's the second, rain.
Rain,
Yeah.
yeah.
I asked first why they
First of
left.
4?
First of 4. There were 4 people.
Baby was born in the Caribbean. Cuba is in the Caribbean islands.
Ooh.
And there was actually 5 children. So,
Oh, I meant lovers.
Mm.
We counted 4, I believe.
Yeah, there were 4 total.
So what was with the first one? That was the one that she didn't love because he was the privateer,
That
the
was the
spy.
first husband that I just asked about too. Like, give us the first name of...
Okay. Do we know what was the ship name? Because I don't remember if you mentioned it for the first husband, the spy, the privateer. What was his ship's name?
I don't know that one off the top of my
Pay
head.
for me?
But I do know...
Pay for me?
I do know the name of Calico Jack's ship. There were 2 different ones, but one of them likes to come through here.
Was prostitution big back then? Was it common for fathers to sell their daughters like that?
Not
Because
so much.
I've heard that happen, obviously before, but
Nassau had pretty much its own whorehouse because that was pretty much the only way women could make money.
okay,
Unless they were farming, but there's only so much land that you can farm in Nassau because
Sure.
it's mostly sand. It's a beach town.
oh,
It's an
okay,
island.
okay,
So unless you were working on the crop, which were mostly run by slaves, and they were freed slaves at that point.
okay. So we talked about when she was young, they left. We talked about the first husband. We don't know much about. Did you learn anything from the woman that you were imprisoned with?
And can you tell us the name of this city that you lived in Ireland? I know that one for sure too. That's come up here before.
It smells like fruit roll-up. That
It's a coconut and pomegranate.
That's interesting.
And come on, give us some clues about your life. Throw us anything at this point.
I'm trying to think of the story and if there's any more, interesting. I mean, gosh. Okay, Anne, you lived to be over 80 years old. What happened next? What, I guess that we'd have to know some answers for that to, like, make sense, huh?
Yeah, after her pilot career, it's a mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, some stories say she stayed here. Others say that she moved to Virginia. Just depends on which version you're reading. I'm going to turn the temperature gauge off, so you can see if that's going to help the battery life go into the EMF. See if that'll give us a different range. It'll
Go away.
Go away? We don't want to go away, Ann. We want to learn about you. If you're not Ann, give us your first name.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Is this Anne?
Are we dealing with somebody else? The last time I had a psychic on the tour, and I've been in contact with him pretty much on a weekly basis, he was very leery about this location. He kept seeing a soldier over by those bushes, but wearing a blue uniform. And it doesn't make any sense to me because that would have been the Civil War, and blue uniforms were the Confederate, or the
Where was it at?
the Union.
Over there,
By
right?
this, like this palm bush over here. But a blue uniform would have been the North.
Okay.
The South had gray uniforms. We had less money, so it was less indigo in the uniforms.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, if it's not Anne that's here, who is here?
0.3.
Come on, Ann. You gotta give us something.
Man, I'm really trying to dig for a question here, but I'm struggling.
The word implementation has been up on the screen for a hot minute.
Implementation. What did Anne implement? Implementation.
If somebody's here, tell us what kind of animal's in that bush. We can hear it.
Is that from you?
What?
The whispering?
No, you can't hear. Well, you can hear like a occasional.
Sounds like a sprinkler.
Did you hear that too?
Special? Captain?
Do we know this? Do we know the servant's name that she supposedly stabbed in the stomach?
No full record of it that I could find. I've dug for it.
What Anne, what year did you sail over here? Can you give us that?
Give us the number. The last number of the year. After we asked which captain it was, this spirit box says me.
Ooh, I like that. That sounds like a very her answer. I was the
Well,
captain.
She wasn't a captain.
Sure, but she seems very
But it might not.
stalwart,
Her here. Blackbeard also spent some time
Oh.
in Charleston too.
Okay,
They would
so
get terms around Blackbeard.
so do you think that this isn't Anne? That this is?
I don't know. I mean, we're getting things like we had the word, Caribbean come up. We have the word captain.
Over 70.
I was just talking about her being over 80 a while ago. Maybe, was she not quite 80?
What else is weird about this space is, first off, we'll get bleed over from Philadelphia Alley over here. I will also get clues from Charles Pinckney, the husband, who's buried across the street. You have to remember that his wife was 70 years old when she died. And we'll get the name Eliza will show up over here when Pinckney is across the street.
Okay.
The nephew is also buried over there, and he introduced the Pinckney Promise to the Constitution. The word promise shows up here all the time.
Okay, this is a captain.
Yeah, which captain are you?
Which captain are you? What was your ship's name?
Which is your name?
What's, yeah.
I also like about the method with using 10 people and 6 different spirit boxes, plus the audio from your camera, the IR camera, and the regular audio. We literally have 9 pieces of communication.
It's like a lot of content.
And they could be going to the voice recorder.
Mm-hmm.
We just never know. This spirit box over here is pretty much dead. It's not giving me anything. And this thing has been sitting at 2.6 this entire time, which tells me it's coming from the building.
Hmm.
One last chance. We're going to wrap it up here.
Really?
I would have never. In my house, you can't say that.
Now it says you.
Me?
It's you.
Are you Captain Brycen?
Can you put my name up there?
Wait, you said, what were the 3 uses of your name? You said that,
So there's me,
yeah.
the judge that tried Anne Bonny,
Okay.
Nicholas Laws, and then there's Nicholas Trott. His cottage is on the other side of this powder magazine.
Okay.
He's the first Chief Justice of the United States. However,
Make the best stuff?
that is a misnomer about that cottage, that he lived there. He was only staying there like an Airbnb until his house was done, which is where the Dock Street Theater sits now.
Interesting.
So it's an interesting story, but it is definitely a misnomer.
He's saying me and you several times, and I wonder if he's trying to get at your name, because I doubt Tabitha and Brycen.
Right. Definitely no relation.
Yeah.
Can you put my name up somewhere? You got 2 boxes here. The one with the blue lights and the one with the red lights.
845.
That's the area code, right?
No.
Oh.
But 8 is the last number of the year that she traveled to Charleston.
We did ask for that. Hmm.
843 is the area code here.
Okay.
Come on, one last chance to put my name up there. Nope, it says beat. Come on, one more turn. Give it one more try here. What was the name of the judge that tried you for piracy? My name too. Come on.
Pick up?
What was that?
Pick up?
Hmm. Is that gonna drive you crazy now? Like, you're gonna take it out and just be like, there's no noise now.
I'm gonna call this a wrap because we're not getting
Do you wanna
anything
hear what
after
it's like?
Captain.
Oh, I can hear it.
Anything that was caught in real time. I like 70. I like Captain because that's definitely a piratey term here. We did get a 6.1 and then first of 4. Caribbean. Like, these are good terms for here, but they're all great first clues only.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of getting that review done to see what else is going to pop up around it. Obviously, I will be giving you a lot of links around those specific terms in your real-time notes, which will be at the bottom.
Okay.
Separated?
Her and Mary were separated. Again,
That's
vague
interesting.
reference.
That would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
I know, that's why I've just kind of been like, because my brain can't focus on.
I'm excited about Psychic. I'm excited about, let's see what else they got. Oh, we had the color blue show up again.
You said there was some bleed over specifically. It's interesting that you mentioned that bleed over specifically from that story, and we come over here and there's all of a sudden there's the name, the 70, the blue.
Yep. Well, blue showed up at 10:37. It's 11:08 right now.
Okay.
So that was probably when we were back.
Oh, okay. So it was
at
a while ago.
Philadelphia Alley. Is
Okay.
my guess. Because I want to say, it's normally around 10 o'clock. I don't time this at all, as I'm sure you guys have guessed. It's whatever happens. You guys did really well, so obviously I just keep going.
Okay.
But that would have probably been around Philadelphia Alley.
Whoa.
Inside of it.
Just now, whatever time it is, it got not quite black, but very dark blue, and just kind of went that way. From the top of the wall down.
Protective?
Yeah, protected twice here.
Interesting. And it looked like
Some kind of anomaly moving
like
around.
a movement for sure. It wasn't.
So let me get into the answers. So go ahead and
Whoa.
I'm going to say stop your video because that way I can look at like the last minute.
Okay.
You got more?
Well, there's a figure, but it could be anything. It's probably that tree. It just looked really strange,
That looks like a person right now.
right? That's why I didn't want to stop it.
On that? Were your crosshairs in the middle?
80? 78? So normal, sadly.
We're going to find out. Turn this guy back on.
Yeah, I'm seeing 78.
Yeah, Tabitha, don't move. Stay in the frame for me. This says 79.6. It dropped like 79.1.
Fire? Countdown? Heart condition?
That was where, when I saw the movement, it stopped there. And that's where you saw it.
I'm going to show you something interesting. Stop your video.